In what was one of the more entertaining games of week 6, we saw Fresno State go down in Wyoming. The effects of Laramie hit the Bulldogs pretty hard, and the Bulldogs added their first loss of the season. Wyoming played really well early on and it kept Fresno State in check, and then ultimately held off a comeback at the end of the game by Fresno State. This is a very entertaining game, a game that if you are looking to expand your fandom, the Mountain West is providing a ton of quality football, a ton of entertainment, and this one did not disappoint. I thought this was going to be one of the better games coming into the week, and it simply was that. You were able to see a lot of exciting things from Wyoming, some of the things we thought they were going to be good at, playing really good defense, disruptive defense, and then finding ways to run the football really well. You saw all of that in this game, and that's really exciting. That's really promising if you're a Wyoming fan, if you're a Mountain West fan. And we'll start with Fresno State. And Fresno State did a lot of things to shoot themselves in the foot early on, but they also had a chance to win it at the end. Now, obviously, losing Mikey Keene, we'll talk about that a little bit later. That hurts, but you did not do enough in the first half. I think the first half is really where Wyoming thrived, and the undisciplined stuff, the penalties, the roughing the quarterback, the drops. There's certain things that you could have fixed. Mikey Keene had some very inconsistent footwork. His ball placement was kind of all over the place, and you just simply can't. Keene finished 23 of 35 for 218 yards and one touchdown. The rushing attack only mustered up 38 yards, which says a lot about Wyoming's front six. That group is very good, and we'll talk about them more in a little bit. But passing attack, I think at times hit some big plays, and you thought, okay, here's where we're going to get going. We're going to see some momentum here, but that simply did not happen. You didn't see that from Fresno State. The offense stalled quite a bit, and that gave Wyoming plenty of opportunities to put more points up on the scoreboard, or at least take some clock away. And in the second half, that's really where it hurt them. And I think one thing that really killed Fresno State's defense, especially in the first half, was 12 personnel. They had no answer for two tight ends. They could not cover them. And the work that Wyoming did offensively deserves a lot of credit. And again, we'll talk about them more in a little bit, but Wyoming did a great job of scheming things up, creating problems for Fresno State's defense, and they simply did not have an answer for what Wyoming was trying to do. But again, there were certain things that they did to shoot themselves in the foot, and Wyoming did not feel sorry for them. They capitalized. Now, the defense for Fresno State did step up in the second half. I thought they played really well, and I thought that they did a good job of getting their team back in this game, giving them opportunities to put points on the scoreboard and at least get back in this game because it was not looking good for a long time. And the defense was one of the culprits, but ultimately they did their part. They held Wyoming in check and they gave their offense more opportunities to score. When you're going to the Wyoming side, this is where things get really fun. We talked about Wyoming and what they do really well, which is running the football. What talked about what they don't do well, which is throwing the football. Andrew Peasley probably played his best game of his career, and I don't know if we'll ever see a better performance from him. And I say that as he threw for 183 yards and three touchdowns. Now, for a lot of quarterbacks, that is not a good performance. That's just getting the job done. 183 yards is nothing to scoff at and nothing for Andrew Peasley. That's a good game. That is, like I said, probably his best game of his career because he played very efficient. He made very good decisions. He was confident. He did not hesitate. And a lot of that has to do with Harrison Whaley's presence. Now, this is a guy who was averaging 8 yards a carry. Obviously, that did not happen today, but he was a big reason why Fresno State struggled taking Beasley out of the game because he was able to make some throws. You were getting a lot of favorable matchups, and he spread the ball pretty well. You saw a number of guys make catches, and there were, the top receiver was tight end Trayden Welch, a guy that I said could be an important factor in this game. Trayden Welch had 6 catches for 74 yards and one touchdown. He spread the ball around very well. He was very confident. And then the other thing is that he made smart decisions. If someone wasn't open, he wasn't forcing things. He wasn't trying to get them the football. He took the open guy and then he ran when he needed to. That was the biggest thing for them. Defense, though, is really what we have to talk about because this defense made Fresno State very uncomfortable. They brought a number of pressures that Fresno State clearly wasn't prepared for. Were fourth keen to escape the pocket a lot of times, and it resulted in Fresno State's offense stalling, not looking very confident, and they struggled to move the ball down the field. Where it really helped them is in the second half. The offense for Wyoming struggled to move the ball. The defense for Fresno State was stepping things up, and then Fresno State scored a couple points to make things interesting. Ultimately, in the end, you get the interception to end the game. Mikey King gets knocked out of the game, and you basically just hang on because this defense is such a veteran group and has so much experience. Easton Gibbs was solid. The defensive line created a lot of pressure on Fresno State's offense, and it is something that the Bulldogs were not prepared for. They could not figure out how to block these guys, and there were a number of knockdowns, a number of QB hurries. The Wyoming defense deserves a ton of credit for this. And this wasn't a really good statistical group if you looked them on paper, but you knew what they were capable of doing. If you paid attention to Wyoming football, a team that I warned everybody about coming into this year, this was going to be a team that was a problem. And you see exactly why. When Wyoming is playing really good defense, which they do, and their offense is also doing its part, Wyoming's offense isn't going to all of a sudden open up the air raid. They're not going to throw the ball a ton. They're not going to put up 50 points. If they're efficient, they're moving the ball down the field, and their defense is playing really well, they're one of the toughest teams to beat in college football. That is how good they are. Greg Bowl does a great job of getting this team to play at a high level. It doesn't matter who they're playing. And when you're playing at home against an undefeated ranked Fresno State team, you know you have to play your best game. And that's exactly what we saw today. We saw their quarterback play efficiently. He made smart decisions. He spread the ball out so he's not focusing on a guy. Lyman could have had more points, if not for drops or just missed opportunities. They should have had more points than this, but they were still playing efficiently offensively, and that's something that really helped them. It was something that made this team one of the more dangerous teams in college football this week. And Fresno State found out why. They're so good at what they do. And when they're playing efficient, there are not many teams that can handle that pace. It felt like Fresno State was pressuring themselves. They felt the heat to try and make big plays. And at times that helped Wyoming because Kane, like I said, throws the ball a little bit behind his receiver, a little bit in front of his receiver. And that helped Wyoming tremendously. The Cowboys are one of the best teams in the Mountain West, a conference that is loaded with depth. And now you get to see what this Cowboys team is capable of doing. And given that their only losses to Texas, their hopes of winning the Mountain West are still very much intact.